welcome to Perks of Being a Widow. Spoiler, there are none. My name is Avalon, and in today's conversation, I'm speaking with Rachel, who lost her husband in a motorcycle accident. Just a little bit of a content warning. She does share that experience. She does describe what it was like to see her husband be in a motorcycle accident in front of her, and that just might be it just might be a little bit much for some listeners, and I wanted to let you know up front. We also discuss the legal battle that occurred after that. We talk about her experience raising her son in this new life together, and we also talk about the importance of her community and the motorcycle community being there for her in this time of grief. So I hope there's something in this for you, and please enjoy. Rachel, hello. It's so nice
Hi,
to meet you.
it's nice to meet you
Um,
too.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we have to meet this way.
I know it is the worst club ever.
It is the worst club to ever be in,
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
say.
So tell me about your husband.
My husband was Sean Helsel. He was 42. We had two boys together. We have a 10-year-old together and an almost 20. Well, our youngest is 11 now, but he was 9 at the time. Our oldest was 19 at the time. So they're 10 years apart. So nice little distance there. He loved the outdoors, loved riding his Harley. He taught me how to ride motorcycles. So that was something that we shared together, really important to the both of us. He loved anything to do with cars. He was just a man's man too. He worked really hard to provide for his family. He was a family guy. I mean, his intention was to go to work, come home to his family. That was his goal every day, to come home and be with us. And that was his safe place. And that's what made him happy. So, but he was a good man. He was a good husband. So smart ass. Had no problem telling you like it was either. If he didn't like you, you knew it. And if he liked you, you knew it. Like, you knew where you stood with him pretty much at any point in time. So wasn't one to sugarcoat anything at all.
I
Sometimes
bet
that was
that
difficult.
I bet
Sometimes
that
I'm
was
like,
great in
geez.
some instances, and sometimes it's like, oh, come on, baby.
Like, wow, you could have thought that through a little bit more before you opened your mouth, but it's okay. I love you anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was 42 when he passed away. So July 3rd of 2023, I had to work that day and he didn't have to work because it was the day before the 4th. It was a Monday. So it's kind of like that day in between the weekend and the holiday. And so he was working for a really good company at the time and they allowed, their people to have that Monday off. So he went out and rode his motorcycle for a while that day, came home, parked it safe. Everything was good and texted me and said he made it home. We have plans to go out later that day and ride together because I rode too and I wanted to as well. Like I wanted to get out in the hot heat and the sun and all of that. And so when I got home, it was really hot. And he's like, do you still want to go for a ride? And I said, yeah, I would like to still go. So, and I had a new seat I wanted to try out on my bike and all of this. And he had helped me pick out a new motorcycle, just not new, but like off a marketplace type of thing. He helped me pick it out about 3 weeks prior. So I wanted to go out and ride it a little bit more and get used to it. Just got the new tire put on it. And so we headed, down the road to the next town over. We stopped at a couple of places and then we took off and he had asked me what way I wanted to go. And I had told him, what kind of path I wanted to take. He wanted to go right around. We have a lot of fresh water up here in Michigan, so a lot of really beautiful lakes. Just it's gorgeous up here. So we wanted to ride around Torch Lake, which is really popular, and just kind of see, what was going on, get the vibe of the 4th of July. He was, one that kind of liked to be in the mix. Or like he liked to get the vibe of it, but he didn't like want to be in the mix of all the people and the craziness. And we were riding our separate motorcycles. So we took off and we were headed north down Valley Road in Kalkaska, Michigan. And it's a winding road and it can be a little bit dangerous at times, but we knew that. And we were coming up to an intersection and we had the right of way heading north on Valley Road and a driver was heading down Sealy Road and they blew the stop sign and they hit him, probably 5 feet in front of me. I want to say maybe I was probably about a car length and a half, between us. They hit him and then spun him around and he was hit again. So he was laying there in the middle of the intersection and I came to a stop as soon as I could. I honestly don't remember a lot of that. I remember coming to a stop and my motorcycle was still running and everything. And I ran to him, and the driver ran up from the ditch because he was in the trees on the opposite side of the road. And he ran up from the ditch, and him and I met at the same time and came to Sean laying in the intersection at the same time. And I remember I dropping to my knees, and I remember him, dropping to his knees too on the other side of Sean and saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I just remember reaching back and I just started, where I hit him several times in the face. And then he stepped back and just let me be. Like he didn't try to approach again. And I remember a lot of people stopping, passerby stopping and trying to help assist me and giving him CPR. I tried to give him mouth to mouth, but I couldn't. There was so much blood coming out of his mouth, so I knew that that wasn't possible. It seemed like ages for the ambulance to get there, it seemed like ages for anybody to get there. And I remember there were passerbys that were helping me keep his chest pumping to keep his heart going. And they were singing Staying Alive by the Bee
Yeah.
Gees. Sorry. Usually I don't get upset when I talk about it, but it just seemed like it took forever for anybody to get there. But then they finally, pushed me off to the side and, kind of took me away from the scene once the ambulance arrived. And so I stood back and I watched and I knew what they were doing. They had like a machine helping give him chest compressions and stuff like that. And then they stopped. And I kind of knew, why they stopped. And then they come over and they had told me that he had passed. But I mean, obviously you don't want to believe it, So I feel like you could have heard my screams miles away that
Yeah.
day. But I still go back there a lot. I go
Yeah.
back there a lot. They have a cross
How
there.
how's that experience for you going back there?
I feel like it's holy ground. It's actually peaceful for me. I think it helps me, and that's a weird thing. I don't know. I feel him there. I think so. And that's weird because it's a sad place at the same time. But we've had a lot of like rides, motorcycle rides, where we stop there and everybody kind of prays. And I'm not much for prayer or religion personally. I don't have a lot of that in my life, so and it almost makes it a place of a holy ground for me in a way, though, because everybody
Yeah.
kind of comes there, to kind of remember and bring honor to him in a way. So that's been nice. No, I think the hardest part, was, his mom and dad showed up there, well, at the scene, and his sister showed up there at the scene, and it was everybody was kind of there, and he was there for hours. You know what I mean? And that was something I share with his family because I'm very close with his family. So that's something that we all kind of share that we were there and kind of understood and witnessed the severity and the gravity of it. So
Is there like a strong like writing community that you interact with? Because it sounds like motorcycles and riding was a big part of your life, together. Have you found that this has impacted that community as well?
absolutely. So I think that was one of the first things that I come to understand, through losing him, that not only losing him in a motorcycle accident, but being riders too at the same time, was that the community came together for me. I've never felt love like that or
Hmm.
felt support like that in my entire life, to be quite honest. So, for people that didn't even know me to want to take time out of their day, money out of their pockets, and, just thinking about praying for me and being there for our family and doing anything that they could to help us was incredible. And also wanting to bring awareness and being able to share their stories with me too, knowing that I'm, letting me know that I'm not alone was really helpful too. Knowing I had that community behind me, that was amazing. Yeah. So Evan and I have come to see a lot of, yeah, I've gotten a lot of camaraderie and a lot of support from that for sure.
Hmm. And you still ride?
Yes, I actually do still ride.
Good.
That wasn't something I had said I was going to put it up. I was going to be done. And about 3 weeks later was his birthday. So he would have been 43 about 3 weeks later. And something in me just kept telling me that, and I wanted to. And I felt really guilty about that. I felt really bad. I still do feel guilty about riding at times. But at the same time, I didn't want anything to hold me back from that either. Like I wanted that to be something that I honored him in a way and use that and even used it to bring awareness to, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
to, people not paying attention to the road, regardless of whether it's a motorcycle or anything else, just not paying attention in general. But yeah, I mean, I decided, when it was his birthday that Saturday, and it was beautiful that day, and something just kept telling me to go. And I was nervous and I was scared, but as soon as I got on that bike and I took off, everything melted away. It was the most perfect ride I had had. And I just knew that I had made
Mm-hmm.
the choice. So it was like he was with me, and I very much felt that. So yeah,
Do you still feel that when you ride that he's there
I,
with
I do at times. Yeah. And then there's other times that it's just for me.
you? Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful though. You know,
Yeah.
and you had said a little bit ago that like you're not particularly religious or, you know, prayer isn't really your thing, but like honestly, I feel like motorcycling can be a spiritual experience. I have my motorcycle license. I don't have a bike myself. I would love to get one,
Right. I get
but
that.
like just the like taking the course to get the license itself was like it was empowering and it was you know you have to be so present you know in it and I was like I get it now you know.
It is. It is everything you have no choice but to pay attention to that and to be in it, you know what I mean? So it's so easy just for everything just to kind of melt away and just be, not having, religion or prayer in my life doesn't mean definitely spirituality is a big thing.
Mhm.
So even if I don't believe in that, I truly feel him with me a lot. Like I feel him around me
Mhm.
a lot. So and I think and sometimes it's a way I feel him with me, but I feel him of course with me in a lot of other ways too. I think we all do. So
Mhm.
and
And
it's
you
just so big of an energy, it's hard to think that they are just gone.
yeah,
Like their energy has to remain in some sort of way, I truly believe. So
I agree. So you're coming up on 2 years.
yes, yep, 2 years, July 3rd. Yep.
Do you celebrate or do you have like celebrate's
Yeah.
not the right word clearly but
I know
like
what you mean, like honor,
yeah
like honoring.
yeah
We do. Like last year, we had a big party because it was the one year. He was a big 4th of July guy. He loved the 4th of July. And so I decided that year we were just going to do a big bonfire or big barbecue and
Mhm.
we invited all of his friends, everybody, anybody that wanted to
Mhm.
come. So it ended up being a pretty big thing and we had fireworks and we weren't really big on drinking, but he was a fireball guy and not my thing, but he loved it. And so we always would have like a little table set up, to do a shot of fireball and, his picture and things set up for him and did some fireworks. So I wasn't going to do the same thing this year, but our 11-year-old has other plans apparently. So I'm like, well, maybe we'll do something just on a smaller scale.
Yep.
Yeah. But we definitely
Yeah.
try and do things, at each milestone, whether it be his birthday or something, even our anniversary. I think last year I found myself in a new relationship last year around our wedding anniversary. What would have
Mhm.
been, I believe, our 14 year, 14-year
Mhm.
wedding anniversary. And I spent the day by myself riding. I rode up to a nice little spot that we would go to sometimes. And, I had like a little shot for him and, some lunch and stuff and just had a day to myself where I rode. And I have a long necklace with his ashes and our wedding rings on it that I wear
Mhm.
when I ride a lot. So I take that with me. Sometimes when I want to feel closer to him, I'll take that with me. So family functions, things like that. I'm like, he's kind of with
Yep.
us. So
Here's with us, yeah. So I have a big whiskey bottle that has most of my husband's ashes in it, but then I've got my travel size,
oh, I like
my
that's so
little
awesome.
my little travel derrick. And
That's
then
so great.
I also got so at the 1 year anniversary, me and some of his friends got memorial tattoos
Okay.
together, and the tattoo artist mixed in some of the ashes in the
I
ink.
have heard about that. That's
Yeah,
really cool. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So he's always with me.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And how long has it been for you?
8 years
Eight
at this point.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it feel being so, I don't want to say so far down the road, but
hmm
compared to mine, like, do you remember where you were at in that?
Yeah. So 2 years, let's see. So the first year I don't really remember, you know, because
I
widow
feel
brain,
that.
or I just don't like, I know I was in Chicago. I know that I was working, I guess. I don't know, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just there are certain, you know, memories that stick out, but for the most part I'm like 2017 is just gone. Like it's
Right.
gone. It's
Yeah.
it's out of it's not in there. File not found.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the second year, so the first year I made so many reckless, stupid decisions, like, you know, because I spiraled so hard. I was like, nothing means anything, my actions don't matter,
Yeah.
everything's bullshit, drink more whiskey. You know, that's kind of
Uh-huh.
where I was at. So
I
year
was in a
two,
different way too, but yeah, I was kind of in
yeah,
that aspect. Yeah.
yeah. And then the second year, so ended up being a lot of dealing with the repercussions of the first year. So that was fun. But then, like, I started therapy. I kind of like I hit my rock bottom or whatever, and then I started therapy and started working on myself as a
hmm
human. And so I think by year two, I was feeling, I was definitely feeling better about the world and life, but I was still pretty depressed at that point. And then by like, so he died at New Year's, which
Okay.
is also a great way to start the year.
Right, right,
Like every
right.
year, every year.
Exactly. I know every year on the 4th it's something, now too. I
Yeah.
get that. It's like it's supposed to be a happy and exciting time, but you have that like that dark cloud that likes to just be like, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
not going
Remember,
anywhere.
remember the worst day of your life? It's right
Right.
here.
Right.
I thank you.
Right.
That's
Like
great.
hanging out around the corner like a weird creep.
Yep, yep. And it's so weird because you have that like anticipatory, like it's coming,
Yeah.
that you're preparing for it. And then sometimes you get to the day and you're like, I suppose this isn't so bad. And
Yeah.
then at like 3 a.m. you're like, "Ah,"
Yeah. Yeah.
just like
I'm
that.
definitely one where it'll wait, you know what I mean? Like I'll be fine and I can hold my strongness,
Hmm.
through the whole thing and then a couple days later I'm falling apart. So
Absolutely. And from what I understand, that's normal, but it's also like,
I guess it
cool.
doesn't feel that way. When people are
No.
looking at you like you're not even sad, what's wrong with you? Like, oh no, it's
Yeah.
there.
I'm sad. I just already cried everything, all the water in my body. So
Yeah.
I'm out.
I'm dehydrated. Like that's
Yep.
my problem.
Yep. That's it. It's not that I'm not sad, it's that I'm dehydrated.
Exactly.
You get
I
it,
felt like that. I thought to myself for the first, I want to say year at least, I'm like, I don't think how do I even have any more tears to cry? Like, how can I
right?
continue to still cry like this? Like, is that even
Yeah.
possible? I
Like, how am
remember
I?
after, because I went back to work about a month later and I had a job where I was dealing with, I was a customer service rep. I was in a call center for a credit union. So it's like I was dealing with people's problems constantly, over and over. Every call, it was an issue, a problem. And of course, it was in the town that we all grew up in, you know what I mean, together. So that was even harder. Because every time I answered the phone, I knew the people. And of course, they're,
Hmm.
how are you? And even through the phone, you can hear their sadness for you, which I understood and I appreciated. But after a while, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. So it was about 5 months later I ended up quitting, but I remember every day at lunch, I would take a ride. I'd ride around the lake and I would just bawl the whole time. Like I couldn't even stop like I felt like I would wait till I got in the car and then it would just let it all go. And
Hmm.
I'd take her around, I'd come back, eyes were swollen and face was red, but I went back to work and got my job done. And then it just got to a point where I just, because for about 2.5 years before he died, he worked at a factory right next door to where I was.
Oh.
So we got out at the same time every day. So I would be leaving work and he would be coming around the corner in his vehicle and he'd wave and blow me a kiss every day. So here I am leaving and my office window looked right out to where he used to work. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So after about 5 months, I ended up going to another credit union for a little while. And then I don't know. I couldn't focus on it. I couldn't, everything else was pulling me. I just felt like I couldn't, I was standing there and my skin was just crawling and I'm like, I can't be
Hmm.
here. I can't do this. And it would seem like the simple tasks in life were just overwhelming everything about it. Like I couldn't focus on anything outside of my life other than surviving and keeping my kids alive and my
Yeah.
house going. That's how I feel even still. I'm
Yeah.
still struggling with that. Yeah.
And I will say that does take a while to like I really don't care for the phrase the new normal,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's like, ugh, but it's
Nothing normal
also
about this.
right, but it's also kind of accurate in a
It
way.
is.
I mean, I feel like the adjustment period, I don't think we always realize how long that adjustment period
No.
is. Because it's not just that that this person is gone. It's that every area of your life is now affected. And then
Right.
then what you're going through like on a physiological level, like your brain
Right.
is rewiring itself.
Yeah. And then adding trauma because losing anyone suddenly is traumatic. I think
Hmm.
watching it is even more traumatic. But it's like I feel like I'm still waiting for something and I don't know what I'm waiting for, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like I do, I feel like I'm living every day like I'm waiting for something.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm waiting for. There's nothing to wait for. You know what I'm saying? But to live my
Yeah.
life. So that has me sometimes and I don't know where to I don't know how to get rid of that feeling, but like I don't know, like you're waiting almost like you're waiting for something bad to happen again sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing sometimes too.
Yeah. And I
Like
feel
the
like,
dread.
yeah, and I feel like when you get into like new relationships, I feel like that becomes even more pronounced because like it's like this is going well. Is he gonna die?
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Or is this all real or is this a joke or is it, am I making the right choice or and it's not even that you don't love another person or can't,
Hmm.
but it's like, it's I don't know. Can I ever open up enough again or that much again?
Yeah.
Because what if, that's the hard part too.
I also don't care for when people call me brave, but like,
Ah, right.
it's like it's
Or
because that makes
strong.
it seem like this was a choice, It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
what else am I supposed to do? Like the options are keep going or die.
Right. 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 And
Like this
and of
isn't.
course, and I know that everybody mostly has good intentions and like I
Oh
get
yeah.
that. Like I had good intentions too when I would tell people, things or say certain things, but sometimes I'm just like, man, as helpful as that is, it's not helpful. Like strong, sure. And I know you've gotten that a lot too. You're so strong. And
Hmm.
people really do maybe feel that we are strong. And I think we are to a point. We have to be
Yeah.
to a point. But at the same time, it feels anything but that. And it always has since the very beginning,
Yeah.
I
And
feel like I'm just trying to keep my head above water most days. I really do feel that way.
yeah. I do think it is a certain kind of strength and it is a certain kind of bravery, and I'll allow
Right.
I'll allow that. But like,
Right.
but also,
What
I
if we
think we
didn't?
also forget how normal death is. Like
Right.
this is
Right.
just a normal part of life, and it's
What
you deal
happens?
with it, and you react or you don't. And I feel like when people say like you're so strong, you're so brave, like it's nice to hear, but it's also in some instances it makes it harder
Right.
because it's
Yeah.
like I don't feel strong. I don't
Right.
feel brave. And now you're
Right.
telling me that, and now I feel like there's an expectation for me to be strong and
Right.
brave, and I'm not,
Yeah. And now I don't get to, yeah, yeah. And a lot of
Mhm.
times, if you decided, and if people are like, oh, how are you doing? Like, do you really want to know the truth or should I just sugarcoat this for you? Because I'm pretty sure I should just sugarcoat this right now.
Mhm.
A lot of sugarcoating when it comes to that and just not wanting, and I also had to get used to, I think what was hard for me is because I don't like being emotional in front of people. That's hard for me.
Mhm.
That was something I had to get used to because I couldn't control that. And still, it's hard sometimes, just even talking to you, just starting talking about it was emotional. And when it starts, I can't help it. And I've caught myself starting to bawl in the middle of the grocery store, over one little thing that triggered me and I can't stop. But you know what? I got my groceries still. I kept, I kept going down each aisle, getting my groceries as tears are rolling down my face because it's got to get done still. I don't really have a choice. So
Yeah.
just keep
Relatable.
going. Yeah, so I'm like I've had to be I've done that a lot. So
Hmm.
I've had to get used to being emotional and showing people that maybe I'm really not okay, like I need just a little extra. I think I did therapy before all of this happened for my own personal sake because I was struggling a lot with depression and anxiety anyway. So I think that helped me work through a lot of this stuff already. I did try to seek therapy afterwards. It was not something that I didn't find the right person, that's for sure. And I still haven't. I still haven't really wanted to be honest.
And that might be
Mm.
one of those things where, I feel like there are some things that you kind of have to process on your own a little bit before you can
Yeah.
bring it
That and
out in someone else.
I have a really huge, really good support system too. And I know not everybody has that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The way I do. I have friends. I know that I mean, I can talk to my boyfriend about anything. I can
Hmm.
talk, and I can talk to him about Sean, and they knew each other, so that
Hmm.
was easier. But,
Yeah.
I can talk to him about stuff, and I don't have to feel bad. Like I can open up about that. I can open up. I have best friends. I have his family lives right next door to me. So grandma's right next door, and they have been incredible for me too. His cousins, his extended family, even. I know that there's a lot of people that I could just reach out to if I really needed it, and they'd be there for me. So, and I think
Right.
that makes a huge difference.
Having a community.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband, he was a bartender in Chicago and a musician and an actor, and he was very gregarious and like outgoing, and so like everybody knew him. And it actually was really helpful. Like when he passed, it's kind of like he left me this whole community of people, that were
That's how I feel
grieving.
too.
Yeah, that were grieving at the same time I was. So
Mhm.
like I didn't have to explain. And
Yeah,
yeah, that was huge.
it was because I know there's people that I could just look at and I could be crying and they would know exactly how I was feeling. They would know the
Mhm.
depth of that loss with me because they loved him just as much as me.
Yeah.
So there's still people, and I notice there's still people that if I get around them and even talk about him, like I can't even hold it. Like there's
Yeah.
just those certain few people that it kills me even to see them, honestly. I miss
Mhm.
him a lot.
How did you meet?
We actually grew up in the same town our whole lives. So he was 7 years older than me. Our dads, we are so entwined family wise. Not that we were related. We are from a small town, but let me be clear. No, our grandparents were friends. Our parents knew each other. His sister was actually my manager at the time at my job that I was working part time. I had just moved back from Tennessee. I had left for a little while and tried to explore life as a single mom on my own, doing my own thing. It didn't work out well. Came back home with my tail between my legs and a kid. It is what it is. And his sister at the time, I knew her from high school. She was a few years older, and I knew he had had a brother, but he was a few years older too. But I never even knew Sean existed because he was 7 years older in school. That's a lot of years
Hmm.
difference. And I was working at the gas station one day and he come in and he always got the same thing when he came in. He'd get gas and he'd get a can of chew. I'm like, okay. So I'd always have it ready for him on the counter. He always wore sunglasses, so I could never see his eyes, but he was always quiet and kind. And so I was like, I wonder who that is, or whatever. And then one of my girlfriends one night, she's like, do you want to go down to, it's called Gordy's. It was a local bar. She's like, do you want to go with me? And I said, no, I think I'm just going to stay home. And, Michael's at home. I think I'm going to go cuddle with him, which is my oldest. And I think I'm good. And she, begged me. She's like, come on, let's go, let's go. I get to be out tonight. And she's like, your son's already sleeping. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I guess, I'll go out for a little while. So I walk in to the local bar, and there he sits next to one of the people that we knew. And I said, oh, that's that guy from, the gas station that keeps coming in. And I could see his eyes. And he had the most handsome, beautiful green eyes I'd ever seen. And they were just kind. And every time he smiled, they lit right up. So I didn't sit, no, I sat next to him. So it was me, him, his friend, which ended up being one of our friends too, and then a couple of the other girls and my friend. And we were having drinks, and he was just kind of, making fun of things and teasing me. And we got to talking at the end of the night. I think we ended up staying up till 5 a.m. talking, and he took me home, and that was pretty much it. And then the more we talked, the more we realized how intertwined we kind of were as far as the people that we knew and our grandparents, like his mom and my grandmother worked together and rode to work together for years. His grandma and my grandma played cards together. Our dads were friends. So, and then he's like, oh, well, Nicole and, Chris are my brother and sister. And I'm like, that's my manager at my work. Your sister's my manager. So yeah, it was like a small town kind of thing, but really cool at the same time, just how life kind of plopped him right in for me right when I needed him the most, it seemed like. So he was always that kind of guy that I knew I could trust. And he was just like, what do you call it? I don't want to say consistency. He was that consistency I needed in my life, and just
Mhm.
someone that would always have my back and he was a man of his word for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Aw. How do you propose? Did he propose?
Um, he did propose. So it was about a year and a half after, about a year. Yeah, I want to say a year and a half after we had been together, and it was just before Christmas. And he was kind of being weird about stuff, but I'm like, well, whatever. And he wasn't a big flashy guy. So I knew if he did, it wasn't going to be anything big and huge. And I was okay with that. Like, that's not, it doesn't mean that to me, you know? we had went to Traverse City one day, which is a local, like the city that's like 20 minutes away from us. So we were in the city one day and he's like, he got a phone call and he turns up the radio and takes the call. And I'm like, so I turned it down thinking that he just wasn't thinking and like turned it the wrong way. So I turn it down, he turns it back up and he's talking to a lady on the phone. And I'm like, I'm like, what the heck was that about? He's like, oh, nothing, just an important call. And that was really unlike him. So I'm like, I'm just gonna let that go. Well, I'm like, whatever. He's got something up his sleeve. I kind of had it in the back of my mind, but I'm like, nah, I don't know. Maybe. And then he's like, well, I'm gonna drop you off over here at the mall and I'll be right back. I was like, yeah, that is really weird. I'm like, all right. I'm just gonna act like nothing weird's going on here, even though it's really weird, but that's fine. I was thinking like maybe around Christmas he would do it. And it was I don't he was one of those guys that couldn't keep a secret though, or a present or whatever. Like as soon as he bought it, he had to give it to you. So I wasn't really expecting it, but we went to go to bed that night and we had just decorated the Christmas tree a few days before that. And we went to go to bed and every light in the house was off except the Christmas tree lights. And I went to go bend down to unplug them. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. And I mean, he's in his tidy whities. I mean, we're ready for bed. Okay. We were like chilling on the couch and everything. So I'm like, so all of a sudden I turn around and he's down on one knee in front of the Christmas tree. And it was just him and I. And then he asked me to marry him, and it was awesome. So I was like, hell yeah. I remember I don't think I slept the whole night because I was like, did that really just happen? I was like waking up, I was like, did you really just propose to me?
Is this real? Are we getting married?
Yeah. It was everything I knew I had wanted in life growing up as a little girl, is everything I had wanted. So it was amazing. And couldn't wait to say yes.
Awesome. So can you tell me about your wedding day?
It was just a typical kind of small town, a little redneck, but whatever. It was very small. We didn't have anyone at our ceremony other than his two best friends, my two people, and our parents and grandparents, and that was it, and brothers and sisters. So it was a very, very small little
Mhm.
ceremony in a little tiny chapel across the road from a graveyard. But we were going to have it out by the river, the Manistee River. And there's a really pretty spot. There's a deck overlooking the river, and you could see for miles, and it's beautiful. And we were going to get married out there, but the night before was just a horrible, horrible thunderstorm. I mean, it rained so hard
Mhm.
that it would have been impossible to get out there with everybody and the elderly people, grandparents to get out there. So we're like, no, we're going to have to think of something real quick on the fly. And so there is a little tiny little chapel in our hometown. I mean, it's so small. So last minute, we ended up getting married in that tiny little chapel. So, and then we just had a big party afterwards, lots of friends and family. And yeah, so I mean, my dress was a $200 dress that I had his grandmother take in for me, and we didn't really have a DJ, just had the music that we played and stuff, and it wasn't anything special, but it was an awesome day. I mean, it was really special, but it wasn't a
Yeah.
big huge grand thing. So
Yeah. Oh, and like, I don't think it has to be.
definitely not. We said if we ever had like renewed our vows or did anything like that in the future, it would just be like something on the beach, just him and I, or something really small and intimate. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Awesome. If I'm remembering correctly, I think you had mentioned that you also lost your son.
No, no.
Okay.
So,
So wrong,
um,
wrong, wrong person. Apologies.
that's okay. No, honestly, I don't know how anybody could lose a child. That is, the pain of
Yeah.
losing him was so incredible. I couldn't even imagine what they go through, and has to be just
Yeah.
probably one of the worst pains you could ever feel in your entire life. So,
Yeah. I try really hard to not like grief compare because there's
right.
everybody's grief is personal, but like
It
I
is.
also can't even imagine like
No.
having gone through my own experience of grief, like the
Mhm.
idea of like losing your kid. Like yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it is, like, and a lot of people get angry when people say, when they try to relate to your grief, when you say, I lost my husband, and they say, oh, well, I lost my mom or I lost my dog. And
Mm.
people get angry and say, well, you don't know what it's like because you haven't lost and you can't compare it to that and blah, blah, blah. And no, you really shouldn't compare. But at the same time, people can only go as deep with grief as they understand and know. Like they can
Yeah.
only go that deep within themselves. So no, they can't imagine how you feel, or they can say, I can understand how bad it feels because this feels really bad to me. So yeah, I can't imagine how awful that must feel too. But I don't ever get mad at anyone because I do truly feel like they have good intentions on trying to understand how badly you're hurting.
It is definitely It's one of those things, you know.
And it is something that, you can't judge it until you've been through it. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not a judging thing. But I can never be too angry if somebody says, oh, I know exactly how you feel because I lost my dog. Well, that's a little different,
Mhm. Or when people compare it to like their divorce, where I'm like, okay,
Right.
I acknowledge that that is a
It's a
traumatic,
loss.
difficult
It is.
experience, and that that is something that you are grieving.
Yes. But
However,
this is not a choice. Yeah.
yeah,
And some
yeah,
people don't choose divorce either, and I totally
sure.
understand that too. But I think when you still were so in love with that person and that, like, I heard somebody say, and it's a weird analogy, that death is like the ultimate, not ultimate betrayal, because I don't see it as a betrayal, but it's
Mhm.
like the ultimate form of rejection because there is absolutely zero chance of reconciliation. You know what I mean? So, and I often thought too, would it be hard to see somebody that you love so much still walking around and living their life? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
is it easier to not see them every day and not do that? I guess I don't know. But either way, I mean, there's zero chance, that I would be able to get back with my husband. So,
Yeah.
it is the ultimate rejection in a way. It's really not comparable.
It really isn't. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is a grief nonetheless, and it is a loss nonetheless. But
Yeah. I feel like we can still hold space for that on the grief
absolutely.
shelf, you know, like if we've got our
Absolutely.
shelf of grief, like it belongs in there with it, you know.
Right. And I feel like, and it's a hard place to be too in grief and in that. But in grief, everything is still the same, but everything's different. And it's like, how do you adjust to a life that's still so much the same that will never be the same, but it is? I'm still in the
Mhm.
same house. I'm still, you know what I'm saying? Like things are still the
Mhm.
same, but nothing is the same. And
Yeah.
that's the
And it,
wildest place I think to be.
yeah, and it never will be again, you know.
Never. It'll never be the same. And you do think a lot about, I just wish I could go back to that. If I could wave a wand to go back to that simple way of feeling and because this is something I can never unfeel or never not go through. This
Yeah.
is it's reality as much as I don't want it to be sometimes and just say I wish I could just go back, but you can't. I think that's the hardest part too.
Yeah, you can't like opt out of it.
Nope, not at all.
And
There's no, I don't want to renew the subscription. Like, this
yeah,
is a lifetime subscription, unfortunately, that I didn't
right?
ask for.
And so like I'm remarried now. And it's a weird thing because like I still consider myself a widow because I still
Right.
am a widow. Like
You
that's never
are.
gonna change, you know?
Exactly.
That's part of who I am now. But
Yeah.
now I'm like a remarried widow. So
Right. Right.
it's
How was that for you? Like, was it a struggle for you, like getting in a new relationship like that and then remarrying and
yeah, it took a while. So like I actually never wanted to get married like growing up in the first place. Like I was like that's not for me, I don't think. Like that's great for other people. Go get married. I
Right.
love it
I
for
don't
you.
want that.
But no, I'm good. I'm gonna like live alone and have cats. Like
I'm all right with that.
I'll be that kid. Like and then I met my husband and we actually we weren't even officially dating when he proposed.
Yeah.
Like we kind of skipped the whole dating part and went right to
Yeah.
proposal and like when he got down on one knee, I was like, "Yes." And I was like, and I remember like telling like telling anybody they were like, "Really? You?
Yeah.
You're engaged?" And I was like, "Yep."
Did you think to yourself at the time, like, what am I doing? Who is this person?
I mean,
Like,
a little bit, but it was also like, I don't
it
know,
felt
this
right.
feels right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So like go from like never wanting to get married to like finding like the love of my life and then losing him, like was
Mhm.
just like, how is like is this a movie? Like, is this
Yeah.
real? Is
Yeah.
this, you know?
Exactly. Like, am I just
Um,
giving up? Why was I even given all this happiness if you're just going to take it away? That was the hard part too. Like, am I being punished for something? Like, did I do something wrong?
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so hard not to think that way, you know, where
Mhm.
it's just like
It
is
is.
this karma? Like how badly did I fuck up in a past life that you're handing me this? Like
I think about that too. I'm like, because I'm like, I know I haven't always been, an amazing 100% person, but damn, like I
this seems
definitely,
real harsh.
right. excuse me, like I didn't ask for this,
Like, I don't
Like,
know what I did, but I don't think I deserve this.
I mean, I'll take a car breaking down or something. I mean,
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. Break a limb? Sure.
Right. Right. I'll deal with that. But this, yeah. Like, why am I
And then
favorite person?
and then that was crazy in and of itself. And then dating as a widow was just weird because it's just
Yeah.
like and being on the younger side, like I remember especially like right because I was 30. He was
Okay.
33 and he was 33? Yeah, he was 33. I was 30. And so like I remember like saying like, I'm a widow and people being like, "But you're so young." And it's like,
I know.
I'm aware. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and so then like dating was just weird because it's like and then I was like, do I want to get married? I don't think I do. I didn't want to in the
Right.
first place and like now, but then and then I met my current husband, which like I've since starting working on this podcast, I've started calling him my current husband. I have no idea how he feels about that. But
Oh, well, I mean, he's here
I
right
feel
now. He's
like
good.
I feel like it's important to distinguish dead husband, current husband,
Right.
you know?
I know. Right.
It's like which one are you talking about, you
Yeah,
know? And so
exactly.
my living husband, my current husband, um, like part of how I knew that like he was the one, because like it was another like I moved home to my small hometown in Iowa, and like I was taking care of my grandma, and then I was like now I'm in Iowa, like you know. And
Right.
then I was doing everything I could to get out of there, and then like we met, and it was just supposed to be like a fling, it was just supposed to be a like we're gonna pass some time before I get out of here, and then
Yeah.
he was awesome,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Right.
and
Yeah.
and how I knew that he was like the one, we started dating like right before my wedding anniversary, and every year I travel or I do something, so it was like we had just started dating, and I asked him to come with me on my like anniversary trip, and he
Right.
he he couldn't, which is probably for the best. Like I think I needed one more like just for me
Yeah, I
wedding
get that.
anniversary, but it was like the first time that I had really wanted to like let somebody in to that experience and like let
Yeah.
someone because like I think I spent yeah, I think up until that year I had been somewhere by myself, not around like anybody that I knew. I was like, I want to be
Mhm.
alone. I don't want to be around people that know me. I don't want people checking on me and making sure that I'm okay because I'm not. And even if I
Right.
am,
Right.
and like even if I am okay, like it's still I don't want to I don't want to have to like field other people's sympathy, you know.
Right. No, I get that too, or the looks or
Yeah.
whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
But,
be not a widow for a while.
yeah. Yeah, or
As far away
no
from it
one
as you could be for a little bit.
exactly, just for a little bit.
Yep.
Where, for a little bit there in that first year, I remember I started charging people if they gave me the sad widow face. Or I was like, okay, we can hang out, but if you give me the sad widow face, you owe me a shot.
I like that. That's good.
You know,
Yep. Absolutely. Don't do it again.
like just don't look at me like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Like we get it.
Exactly.
It's sad.
Yeah. I know it. Or when I have to say it and they're like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. I don't know what else to say. So I always say, it's okay. It's not
Yeah.
okay, but it's
But
okay.
yeah, but there's this like weird urge to like reassure people that you're okay even
Yeah,
if you're not. Like
exactly.
where it's like, don't you worry about me too.
Yeah, I know. Life did feel like it was under a microscope for a long time. I felt like
Yeah.
everybody around me was just making sure I wasn't gonna explode my life into a 50 million pieces. And as much as I wanted to, a lot, because I went through
Yeah.
a period too where I was like, screw this. Like, I don't even care what's any of this about. Like I was riding, like, he was a big guy on safety and riding safe. It wasn't all the gear all the time, but he wanted to make sure you wore your helmet and jeans and you know what I mean, just be
Yeah.
smart. And, I was riding without a helmet for a while. I was like, fuck this, fuck everybody, you
Hmm.
know? And then, of course, our 11-year-old, I just couldn't fathom, ever putting him through something like that again because I think that out of everything, I think that will stick with me more than anything in the whole wide world forever, is having to tell him, that his dad was gone. That was awful. Worst
Yeah.
thing I've ever had to do in my life. So, and like his screams will stay with me for the rest of my life. And that's something that I told the guy that hit him because he pled not guilty because of the glare of the sun. The sun glare. The sun got in his eyes and he didn't see the stop sign. And that was his excuse for pleading not guilty. But when he got on the stand, he made the statement that he did see the stop sign last second and chose to roll through it instead of stopping really hard because he didn't want to put himself or his passenger at risk. So he decided just to go through the stop sign. The sheriff's office or the Michigan State police officer said that when he looked at the black box, he had tapped his brakes for a split second and then proceeded through the stop sign. So I said, so you made the split second decision, so it wasn't an accident, so you decided to roll through. Like, and then they asked the judge to relook at it because new information had come to light after that, and she
Mhm.
refused. And he put
How
us through a whole trial.
Yeah. How was that experience?
It was not great, honestly. I was kind of angry that we even had to go through it. Kalkaska County here in Michigan is not, it's kind of, I feel like it can be a bit of a crooked county. I guess that's really the only way I can put it. It depends on who you are and what your name is. And that's just kind of how it is, which is sad. But when I went to go speak to the prosecuting attorney's office, they're overworked and underpaid, obviously, there. And that's the way it is in most situations around here,
Hmm.
or in like courts, anything like that. So we went there to talk to him about what we were going to do. And it was like 6 months after that he even reached out to me. I had to reach out to him to ask what was going on, what was happening with anything. Like, was he going to be charged? Like, what was going on? And he had pretty much told me that it would be a lot of work on his part if we decided to press charges for not a whole lot of outcome. So he didn't see the point in charging him at all. And I was very angry. And I was angry, but I kept it cool. My mother-in-law, however, was
Yeah.
not. She was extremely angry that that would even be mentioned or brought up. And so in the end, there was a lot of back and forth. And he says, I'll press charges if it brings you closure. Not, very condescending. I said, nothing's really going to bring me closure when it comes to this. You're supposed to be on my side, on the side of the tax-paying citizen, on, you know what I mean, who voted for you to be in this position in the first place. You're supposed to be working for the people, and that's not what you're doing. I said, but in my case, you're going to, because you're going to press the charges. I'm sorry if that's too much work for you, but regardless, is you're going to do it. I was like, and he's going to come up here and he's going to sit through this. He's going to be held responsible. And I don't care what it looks like, he's going to be held responsible in some sort of way. Like, we're taught as children that there's consequences for actions, whether it's negative or positive. There's an outcome.
And
And
like regardless of what your intention is, like it's like
right.
we can all acknowledge that you didn't mean to kill somebody,
Exactly.
but you
And
did.
I told him that. And I said, I know you didn't seek to kill my husband that day. I understand that. I said, but at the same time, it did happen. You killed him, not the glare of the sun, nothing else. It was you. You were the one responsible for this. He ended up pressing the charges on him, and all he got was moving violation causing death was all he was charged with. And it was a misdemeanor. And it was because he had no drugs in his system, no alcohol, things like that, which I kind of knew that that was going to go that way. I'd already kind of knew that. And they kind of prepared me for that in a way. So we wanted jail time, which it did carry like up to a year of jail time at the max, 1 year probation, and some other things. But he pled not guilty. He said that the glare of the sun is what kept him from seeing the stop ahead signs and the stop signs, that they were on each side of the road too, not just the one side of the road. They were on both sides of the road. And in the end, we sat through a whole trial for an entire day. And then we also sat through a sentencing. And at the trial, they were asking me the defense attorney was asking me just absurd questions and almost trying to put it back on my husband, like it could have potentially been his fault in some sort of way. Asking the medical examiner, could his obesity, because he was, 250 pounds at 5'9", could his obesity have contributed to his death? Could the fact that he smoked marijuana contribute to his death? Could the fact of, and so I was just so disgusted because a lot of these questions were coming from the defendant, not the defense attorney. So the driver was the one who was asking most of these questions. And I was very angry about that because you were trying to make him look Like he was the guilty one when you are the guilty one. So that was really hard for me to sit through and listen to. And to listen to him not be truthful on the stand about certain things, that was difficult for me too. Because no one else would have known them except for him and I, or him and the girl in the vehicle, because it was a minute before anybody showed up. So, and then the defense attorney also had said, "Are you aware that, you had given Mr. Yusuf a black eye or blah, blah, blah?" And I said, "I wasn't aware that he had a black eye." And he says, "Well, he was asked if he wanted to press charges against you for assault at the scene, and he denied, and he's decided not to press charges against you. Are you aware of that?" And I said, "Good for Mr. Yusuf. Thank you so much for not pressing charges on me for hitting you." I was very upset, but I, kept my cool. But that was another thing, and it was almost like he was trying to make it even harder after he had already, killed him. And then to stand up at the sentencing and read me a big letter about how he's taking accountability for his actions. And I said, and so yeah, so a lot of that left a really bad taste in my mouth throughout the whole thing. And it made me really, really angry in a lot of ways at him for, to say he was taking responsibility, but not actually, if you were taking responsibility, you would have pled guilty and you would have just been done with it. He was a retired military pilot. So if he would have pled guilty and been found guilty, he would have lost his pilot's license. But he pled not guilty, put us through this entire charade, only to be found guilty anyway and have to report it to them anyway. So it's very frustrating that, it was almost like salt in a wound. And it was really
Yeah.
shitty, personally, of him. Yeah, I feel.
Well, because it's
But
like that kind of like I'm taking accountability, or it's like, oh, are you?
exactly. No, you didn't take accountability.
Yeah.
You haven't taken accountability from the beginning because you're still making excuses on why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of saying, "I messed up, I fucked up, I shouldn't have done that," or whatever. Instead, you are finding excuses and any reason or anything that could be to get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And to me,
And
that's not taking accountability.
that's not accountability. That's looking for a way out.
And that was something I had wrote to him, had written in my, what do you call that at the end where you get a
Like
victim impact
statement.
statement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I had read out what the definition of a real man is and what the actual definition of it is. And I read that and I said, the man that you killed that day was the definition of this. I said, "I wish I could say the same for you, but I can't." I said, "Because a real man would have said, 'I'm guilty,' would have said, 'Give me whatever I have to do. I did wrong. I made a
I'm
mistake.'"
sorry.
Yeah. So, and there was really none of that. So, and that was the hardest part for me is it just at least say, "I fucked up, I messed up, I'm sorry." I would have had so much more respect for the man if it would have been that way. For me
Yeah.
personally, it would have turned out a lot different. Would have felt a lot differently. But I don't hold a lot of anger towards him though, like I thought I would. Like I'm not angry as in like I'm constantly thinking about heart wishing him bad. And the crazy part is I really don't think about him at all. I mean, I think about Sean,
Right.
every day. I think about that, but I don't think about him and being angry and wishing him hatred or anything like that. No, I just don't even think about him at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is kind of a good thing, I guess. I think a lot of it is because I don't know, I kind of told him how I felt too, which helped. I think the sentencing helped a lot in that way. So,
Yeah. You were able to like look him in the face
yeah,
and show him what he did.
right. And I think a lot of that too, I mean, has helped with the healing process too. That and, even being at the scene, I know it's weird, but for me, I'm almost glad I was there. And I know that sounds odd, but I'm glad he wasn't alone
Yeah.
because he was my best friend. So he wouldn't have ever wanted me to be alone. And I knew that, I mean, he died doing what he loved with who he loved doing it with. So that brings me a lot of peace. And
Mhm.
just knowing that there's no unanswered questions. Like I was there, I knew everything that happened. Even if there's some things that are still really blurry to me, I still like I know what happened. I know what went down. I know that I was there to the very end.
I don't think I have any like specific questions at this point. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to discuss?
I mean, no, I mean it's definitely been an eye opener as far as trying to raise children through grief. That's been really hard. That's probably been the hardest part of it. Like I feel like I can like handle myself and what I'm going through and, keep my head above water and things like
Mhm.
that. But seeing my children grieve has probably been the absolute most heartbreaking thing I have ever experienced in my life.
Yeah.
Seeing other people miss him too is hard, but seeing my kids miss him is probably one of the worst things in the world that you could ever experience as a parent. Knowing that you can't make it better, you can't bring him back. I remember one time our 11-year-old is he's autistic, so that in itself, realizing that I have to raise a special needs child on my own and try and have them understand it from our perspective in a way, or have them understand it in general, which he's high functioning, so he gets it. He understands that his dad's passed away and that he's not coming back. But in a child's mind, and how it plays out, that's hard because he had a particularly hard day. And it kills me every time I think about it. But he says to me, I just miss my dad. And I said, buddy, I miss him too. Like I miss him so much. And he says, Mom, he says, I just wish he could be here. I said, buddy, if I could bring him back, I would bring him back in a second, but I can't. And he says, but Mom, there has to be some kind of magic in the world that could bring him back. And I said, buddy, there's not. I said, because if there was, I would have done it already. Like he'd already be back. But I can't do that for you. I said, believe me, I would if I could. And that was probably one of the hardest times, like moments that I had besides telling him that his dad was gone. Like that was tough. Because in their mind, they're like, there's got to be some sort of way, even if it's
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Like they still believe in that magic, that there's got to be some kind of way like this can't be real. So that was really hard for me at a time that he hasn't accepted it yet, like I thought. And he's so resilient. You think they're so resilient, but they have times where they're struggling so much too, and you don't really realize it because you're going through your mud and you're slushing through.
And I feel like, as adults, like, we've kind of got our feet under us in a way that kids just don't yet because
Right.
they're still figuring out the world. Where it's
Exactly.
like, I feel like at age 30, did I have my shit figured out? Absolutely not. Did I feel like I understood the world? Kinda, enough,
Yeah, we think we did at
yeah,
that time.
exactly. Exactly. But when you're 9, you're not
Right.
where the world is already kind of a mystery and then going through this big traumatic situation.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, because I mean, they were best buddies. So that was, it was Sean's only biological child, which I mean, he raised my oldest two just like his own.
mhm.
But biologically, he's the only one too that he got to see from birth till, you know what I mean, up. So they had that bit of a special bond too. And he was definitely a daddy's boy a lot in that instance. So that I mean that was a huge loss for him. And at first he was like took it he's okay, my dad passed away, this is what happened, because he's a very matter of fact, it's black and white,
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of gray area with him. So he took it and he understood. But then of course as time went on, things started to, I think, catch up with him. And kids don't understand sometimes when they're spiraling. Sometimes like adults will kind of understand that they're starting to spiral and there's an issue, maybe we need to address it, or this isn't a healthy way I'm going. Kids' minds and their brains aren't developed enough to understand that the path that they're taking is wrong, or that this action, if they take it because they're hurting, is going to have this negative consequence that's hard, for them to understand. And then for a young brain going through all of this stuff anyway, to have to understand that versus an adult who's kind of already understands the world, to have to understand that too. It was hard enough for me, so I can't even
Yeah.
imagine how hard it is for him to really understand that that's like this is it. This is final.
Yeah.
The
This is
finality of it.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and like knowing that he thinks in this general like black and white like logical way, and then to hear him say something like, "Isn't there some kind of magic in the world?"
Right.
Like, oh,
It does. And
it's
so it's like
saving.
that. I know exactly. Like just holding on to that hope. And then you have to be the one to dash that little bit of hope that he had. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a horrible feeling, but you have to do right by them and you have to be honest, because as hard as and sad as it is, it's reality.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more you protect them, the longer you're taking for them to accept the truth, I guess, and what
Yeah.
reality is. Sucks being
Oh.
a parent sometimes.
bet.
But honestly, if it wasn't for my children, I really don't know where I would be at this point. You know, if I would have, they were my reason for continuing and to keep going and to, like, I didn't have a choice but to keep going because they needed me. Even
Yeah.
my 20-year-old, needed me. I couldn't just give up, even though there's parts of me that still did. I still feel like I'll never be who I was, but there's still parts of me I don't feel like will ever be the same or normal again. Like, I'm struggling. Like, I feel like I'm still trying to get back to the normal it was before when it'll never be that again. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm waiting for that or something, that feeling of nostalgia for something that can't ever be. I guess if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah. And creating that new is hard, but it's also fun and exciting. Meeting somebody who is okay and not uncomfortable in your discomfort is huge. And I'm grateful I have found that. And I'm very, very grateful for that because I mean, little things will set me off anymore. Like, I'm really emotional now. And I'm really surprised because usually I don't get super emotional about it when I'm talking about it. It's usually like when I'm alone. I feel like I can talk about it no problem most of the time. I don't know. Today's a different story, I guess. That's that fun widow stuff that nobody tells you about.
Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
like it just depends on the
Yeah.
day.
Just the smallest things like my boyfriend, he likes like this certain type of I mean, it was food. It was a food item that took me forever to throw out of my freezer because it was one of his favorites. Finally threw it away because it wasn't something I liked. And he liked the same thing. And so I'm putting it in my freezer and I'm crying as I'm putting it away. And, I'm sure he's probably thinking she's fucking crazy. Like, what's going on? It's just food. It's another one of those, if you haven't went through it, you wouldn't know, you know?
It took me 2 years to throw away his toothbrush.
Yeah.
Like, and I moved twice in that time frame. I moved with this toothbrush. Like, and
Yeah.
like, why? Why did I move with a
Right.
toothbrush? Like, and like, but by the time that I finally threw it away, it was just a toothbrush, you know?
Right.
By the time I threw it away, I was like, because for a long time it was like, I can't throw away his toothbrush. It's next to my toothbrush, and they're
Right.
happy together, and I can't do that to the toothbrush.
I know it's the reasoning in our minds. I get that.
Yeah.
And for me, I was very much a little bit more the opposite. I want to say 6 weeks to 2 months out, I redid my bedroom, and I went through each room in the house and I kind of made it my own in a little way. I wasn't one of those that I just couldn't see his stuff, but there were still things that were left. And as I've gone through and gotten pretty much everything, but I kept a bar of his soap and his deodorant.
You could
And I
smell
keep that
them.
in in just a little spot, and just it just smells like him. But even like little things, like I was fine and I go into my enclosed trailer the other day. I hadn't been in it since he passed away. And he has his old four-wheeler out there. And you look at it and all these memories just rush back in, of him giving the kids rides, and that was hard too. I still struggle a lot with little things that catch me off guard like that. But I go through times where I'm crying a lot, and I those memories will hit me and they'll be really hard. And then there's days where I could sit there and watch videos of him and hear him talk and all sorts of stuff, and I'm okay and I'm laughing and I'm smiling, and it's such a weird thing to be in. But I was very much, I had to get rid of his stuff at first, and I just kept little things because for me, I couldn't sit there and look at him all the time. But I know for some people, like they had their shoes by the front door for, however long, and I get it. Like, I really do. So,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
another way that just everybody's grief is different.
exactly. It really, really is. And it shows you that, like, even on that support group Facebook page, I mean, everybody is it's incredible the stories that you read compared to yours, and you obviously you can't compare, but like just
Mhm.
reading them and you're like, wow, I can't even, you feel for that person, or you're like, I completely understand what that they're going through, or I'm grateful my situation isn't like that, or whatever. You think about those things a lot. But I mean, everybody is incredibly different when it comes to that. I even know local widows where we have had totally different experiences, even though we've had the same type of loss, you know?
So, last question or whatever. So, podcast is called Perks of Being a Widow.
Yeah.
There are none. It's awful.
Zero.
Terrible. This is
No
awful.
perks. Do not
Um,
recommend. 0 out of
do
10.
not recommend. -3 stars.
Yes.
But, I do feel like there are some things that I'm like, now I'm really great at ruining small talk. And
Right.
I never really liked small talk to begin with, so
I bring
hey,
awkward everywhere I go. You're welcome.
exactly. You're welcome. Want to make it weird? I'm here. Um,
I got you
y-
covered.
really weird, twisted sense of humor.
Same.
That's a fun perk of being a widow. I
It
now have a
is.
socially acceptable reason to hate Christmas. You
Right?
know,
Yeah.
I can say I hate Christmas, and people are like, "Oh, but why?" And it's like, "Well, my husband died." Um,
You can't even argue that. Like you literally can't argue that.
you
So
can't
ha.
argue that. Like it's like okay, all
Yeah.
right. Um,
I feel like I'm like, okay, I feel crazy today, and everyone's like, all right, we know why. It's cool.
exactly. So in that vein, what perks of being a widow would you like to share?
I don't know. I mean, perks definitely. I feel like I have been able to be a lot more outspoken. I am way more apt to not let people walk all over me like I used to. I definitely get a lot of that strength from him. I feel like I feel like I always say I'm tapping into a little bit of Sean right now because he was a, no bullshit kind of guy. Definitely going more for my happiness. I mean, obviously, my kids are kind of an unspoken thing, but like I was in a relationship for a little while after he died. I want to say it was probably 8 or 9 months out that I had met this guy, and we were together for 10 months. And in the end, I was not happy. My needs weren't being met. I was lonely, and I said, I'm with somebody. I shouldn't. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is not how I should feel. And the old me would have said, you know what, let's just keep going. I don't want to rock the boat or whatever. And I said no. If this has taught me anything, if this loss has taught me anything, if losing him has taught me anything, it's that life is precious, obviously. And all that cliche bullshit is so true and it irritates me and makes me want to puke, but it is so fucking true, all of it. Like you don't know what you've got till it's gone, blah blah blah. You really don't. And so a lot of that is I decided, no, I have this one life and I'm not going to sit here and be miserable with a man who obviously doesn't appreciate what he has in front of him and what I bring to the table. And so I chose myself. I chose me and I said, no, I'm not doing this. And I want to say a month and a half later, I met someone who couldn't have been a better match for me if I had handpicked him myself. So it's like, almost like I was rewarded for choosing myself in a way. I would have never done that before and just gone out of my way to make sure that my life is going the way I want it to and that I'm choosing, to really truly make myself happy and really be in the moment when I need to be in the moment, and really enjoying that time. So that's the perks, the only fucking perks.
Yep. That's a good one though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Perks
Other
of
than
the
that, like I
worst life
said,
ever.
do not recommend.
No, no, this is not. No, thank you.
But hey, since we don't get a choice, I guess we gotta make the best of
Yeah,
it.
indeed.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any questions for me or anything you'd like to touch on or
I don't think so. You a whole
awesome.
lot today.
Yep.
Just talked about me mostly, but
No, that's perfect. That's what we're here to do. Well, thank you.
you're welcome. I had a great time talking to you today. I appreciate
Awesome.
it.
No problem.
It's
Likewise.
nice to, yeah, it's nice to have an insight on somebody else too and what they're going through too.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate even the invite and doing this and just being able to tell our sides of it too, because I don't know, it's nice knowing you're not alone in somewhere in a thing where you feel very lonely. So,
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
You're
and
welcome.
enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you are interested in being on the podcast, please email me at avalon@perksofbeingawidow.com, or you can find me on social media on Instagram at Perks of Being a Widow. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.